All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Applicable Dad Parenting and Beyond, the show that focuses on navigating the life of parents, coaches, and mentors. I am your host, Jon. I'm with my co-host, Cody, and we have a really special treat today. We actually have our first guest, episode 4, and already doing a guest.
So excited.
So excited. Today's, and we'll get into those formal introductions, but today's focus is a little bit different than what we had originally talked about in episode 3. We shifted it. We found and heard some feedback from you all, and we wanted to come out and say, we're listening. So this focus is about coaching and parenting athletes. Sometimes you're doing both. Sometimes they run over each other, but we want to talk about both of them, coaching athletes as well as parenting athletes. And so again, thank you so much for joining. And we are going to, we want to say from coaching Little League, from being in Little League to the hopes of playing in the big leagues. There are many ways and opportunities to develop kids on and off the field, as well as our guests, to provide insight into the world of sports. And that's why we wanted to bring Richard Stickney in with his experience to help us talk about coaching and parenting. Welcome, Richard.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for being here, buddy.
Yeah. So it's exciting. How do you feel being our first guest?
I would say I'm nervous, but I'm not. So
don't be nervous.
Not my first time talking to people.
Yeah, that's good. Good communicator. And so we're happy to have you. So I'm going to run down just a little bit of why we brought Richard on. Richard has 10 years of experience as a youth baseball coach. Now, I mentioned before that I do youth baseball coach. Richard did a much, much higher level of coaching than I did in the little leagues. So Richard did the majors, which anybody that is familiar with it, you go A, double A, triple A, and majors. So you're in the best of the realm. So he had 10 years of experience with that. He had 6 of those players that went Division I, pretty big accolade. So you developed them on the field, you developed them off the field, you helped them beyond the field, which is amazing. He had 6 years of high school football as an offensive line coach in Bixby, which Cody's alma mater.
Ooh.
Yeah. Bixby proud. He also umpires high school as well as some college, and he umpires youth on the weekends. I've seen him in action. He's effective, he's fun, he helps, and he builds up the kids throughout the process. And so what a perfect kind of add to what we're trying to accomplish here, right, Cody?
I've heard a lot of high praise on you, on your umpiring, being able to control a game, control parents, control players, coaches, and the like on the field, because I know that gets difficult in some situations.
And that's why a lot of the times when I start out on youth, they'll stick me with some of the new guys, young guys, trying to get them started. So when you're doing all that and you're starting down on 6 and 7, 8-year-olds, they nickname me the cooler down there because you're dealing with still a lot of young dads that still have that fire that they're still playing.
Sure.
And they're bringing it as if they're still at the college or whatever their last bit of playing. Uh-huh. So they bring that extra intensity to the game where I kind of
through the child,
yeah. Or sometimes they skip right over the child and come straight to me.
Yeah. I think they call that living vicariously through your child.
Exactly.
Which is actually one of our addendums to one of our topics is don't live vicariously through your kid. Your time is up. You've done your time. So and we'll tap into that. That's a great kind of already a value add for us to bring that up. But we thought, what a great focus. Let's bring in a gentleman that is an applicable dad who has helped youth, who is helping to mentor, has developed a number of kids, and let's have this conversation. So we're really excited about this. This is one of those situations. Are you raising your hand right now?
Mm-hmm. It's my cue.
Oh, well, Cody wants to say something.
Well, just to add to Richard's accolades of he is also a youth PA announcer, which he's done for 13 years. So to have that kind of plug into many different coaches and many different teams that you're watching, parents that you're going to be associated with in that realm, you're going to bring a lot of points to our topics that we're going to go over today.
You stole my extra questions, Cody. Unbelievable.
I'm ashamed.
Don't you raise your hand at me ever again.
Shame.
You use those hands
Shame.
for helping your wife, all right? It's like we talked about in the last episode. You don't raise those hands in here, okay? It's open dialogue. You just jump right in.
Honey?
Well, so we want to jump into the first topic. As you guys have experienced with us, we break these conversations down into 2 topics. And we try to keep it a formality involved in this because we want it to be valuable to you, and we want it to stay focused on the subject matter at hand, as opposed to jumping around. And we try to keep it within that realm of topics. So today we're going to do that same thing. We're going to jump in and we split this up because coaching and parenting athletes has 2 different roles to it, and one being coaching athletes, the other being parenting athletes. And then at the end we'll kind of talk about how those blend together, or even throughout. Let's just discuss how they can blend together. So, first topic, parents' role. So what would you guys say is the parent's role within raising an effective, honest, character-based athlete?
Team-wise? Or
Either
individual,
one.
meaning tennis, golf? Because there's 2 different ways, whether it be the team side or an individual sport.
Yeah, any type of athlete,
Because on the team side, they've got to be supportive of whoever they're going to go play for.
Okay.
They
Let's
can't
start
be-
even before that. Before
Okay.
they get on the field, how do you as a parent raise that child to be an effective sportsman as well as an athlete?
It comes from the home. They're going to transfer everything they learn in the home to the field, to those coaches, their peers, their athletic peers, about knowing how to respect,
Sure.
how to give full effort, and how to be a team player, or to encourage others around them instead of focusing on themselves. So as long as they can learn all that within the home, they can transfer that to the field as well, in my belief.
Okay, that's great. What about you,
Well, a
Richard?
lot of that and doesn't really have to do with sports. Meaning when you're teaching all that, it could be in the classroom, any of those stuff where you're being. Sometimes you want to put your kid in a situation they're not comfortable with, and so you got to put them out there. And when they do that, then you can see without even getting them on the field how they interact, how they do in the play, how they do at a track meet, little bitty track meet that you have at kindergarten or whatever. How do they interact at their daycare? You can see a lot of that stuff, like you talked about, coming from your home to there before you even get into sports, on how they're built. Because as you guys know, not everybody's coached the same way. Can't coach them, can't parent one kid and parent the other one the same way, because they're 2 totally different kids. And that's what you learn a lot before you even get them on the field.
Absolutely.
Great point.
Yeah, that's a great point. Even at home, and I'm looking outside our window here, as you're raising your own kids, boy or girl, you play catch with them. You see their abilities, and then you start that coaching process from there. How are you going to develop them? Well, you got to put your hands up a little bit more, or you got to run differently, run on your toes, things like that. But then also you get to start seeing an understanding of how they process. Oh, I dropped that ball. Well, are they hard on themselves? Are they really upset? Are they angry? Did they quit the game?
Yeah, the way you perpetuate that to the child is key to. You don't want to make them feel as if they don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
They've already got a bad taste in their mouth, and in a sense of the words, on that sport or whatever you're doing with them. It reminds me of instance with my daughter. So I coached her when she was 6 years old in soccer, youth soccer, kids just out there having a good time. I was one of those parents at that point in time in my life, which is a long time ago. She's 17 now.
Happy birthday.
So at that point in my life, I didn't have a good grasp of all this. So she wasn't the most physical, most aggressive player on the field. And I was trying to think of a way to help her with that. And, after talking to her many, many times over many games, I decided to just lay into her one day, at the house, and not lay into her, physically. But
I was going to clarify that.
Yeah. But I really drove in, or I tried to drive into her how to be aggressive, and I would go out there and I would tell her to take the ball from me, and I'd kind of push her around, be a little more physical that you can with a 6-year-old. I wasn't slapping her or shoving her to the ground or anything, but she really took it to heart, in not a good way. It wasn't a good way to put that message into her. So she would get upset, she would cry. And till this day, I still regret doing that. But at that point, going back to one of our episodes, just asking for help or whatever, I was a single dad. I didn't have anybody to bounce these ideas off of. But I do know now, and that wasn't the correct way to do it.
Yeah. You weren't intentional in how you approached them.
No, I wasn't.
Yeah.
A lot of mistakes, though, are going to be made. Because let's be honest, you're just going off how you were raised.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? How you were coached growing up. So it might not be the right way. Yes, I've made tons of mistakes coaching, that you go back, but it's just a reflection on why the grandparents are better coaches than the kids are to their grandkids than the dad is to their son, because they've already seen it, been there, done that.
Yeah.
And that's why you always, like when we had our team, we had a grandparent that coached with us.
Okay.
And so he was involved in it, and he gave us the mellow version, because when we've talked about before about not afraid to ask for help, when I coached, I knew enough to get myself in trouble, but I surrounded myself with an All-American from Oklahoma State. I got guys that definitely knew their area more than me.
Yeah, yeah.
And so all high intensity, and we go get help. So we had a grandparent that helped us coach them, which had the mellow version of it. So he gave us a whole nother aspect that, hey, been here, done this.
Sure.
Don't make this mistake, because you're going down the road that you could be pushing that kid away, or you're not tapping into everything that you could get.
That's a great point. I go back to even Cody's example there. It's hard at that age to teach kids, hey, don't take this ball or take this ball, right? Because naturally they think, well, I'm supposed to be nice. I'm supposed to be compassionate. I'm not supposed to take that ball. And even my boys struggled with that. They didn't have kind of that animal instinct yet, because they're like, wait, are you tricking me, or am I going to get in trouble for taking this ball from this kid?
Yeah.
And so that's a hard, like that's like one of those dichotomy situations where it's like, on the field, and Jordan Peterson talks about this, on the field, be a monster,
right.
Be an absolute monster, but learn to control it. Always go for that win, which, you can learn lessons through that. But be a monster, but control it. And so kids at that age are so hard. Now, Richard, when you were coaching baseball and your majors were in nine?
We started 9, going into 10, yeah.
Okay. So did you run into any situations like that? And your kid played as well, right? Okay. So how did you transition from home to the field with your boy?
They drove in a different car. Well, I mean,
is that serious?
Because it was hard at that time when you're competitive and high strung.
Yeah. That
you want to keep talking.
Okay.
And then when the game's over, they didn't ride home with me. They never wanted to come. They would come to the game, but they wouldn't go home with me. Or we'd make sure when you coach your kid, we made sure we didn't coach them. We had another coach take care of our kid, as if they would treat, so that you can't. Because how is it? You're always twice as hard on yours as you would be anybody else.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
that's one of our topics too, on the favoritism from the coach's side, and we'll jump on that once we get to topic 2. But it's so true. It's so true. My son does not, and we're not playing the major side of it, but we're playing the rec side, and but we want to win. I played some baseball. Like, I want to win, and we practice to get to this certain point. And so he's the same way. He doesn't ride home with me. He rides home with mom. And I always give him a hard time. Like, I don't take offense to it, but I always give him a hard time. It's like, okay, well, you had a good game. Why are you not riding home with me, man? Like, that's
we don't think about that in the moment, but they don't want to hear criticism right after a game. They gave what they feel is their best effort.
Yeah.
And to hear all the little points and things that we want to embody in them while we recall them at the time.
Yeah.
That they don't want to. They want to enjoy the moment. They want to go home. They want to, laugh with their buddies.
Right.
Or
right.
just relish on what the game did bring.
So, Richard, did you ever experience the helicopter parenting? And the helicopter parenting, which more is like a kind of a new, within the last 5 years, phraseology, or a term. Helicopter parenting is when the parents are helping them do everything, grab their equipment, bringing them all this extra stuff, interrupting the flow of sportsmanship, and hovering over them. So they call it helicoptering, as if
Sure.
you're hovering over. Did you ever experience that side of it? Because that's one thing that we can touch on parents is, how do you be more effective? Well, you don't helicopter. You trust the people that you've put in place. So have you experienced that?
Well, we kind of knock it out early when we have our parent meetings. During a game, don't come to the dugout.
Yeah.
They weren't allowed to.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, that's just keep them away. You trust us for this game time, for this practice time. They're ours.
Yeah.
Not yours now. So
Right.
we always try to do that to them. And if we keep them to, hey, you go get your bat bag. You're responsible for your helmet. You're responsible. We didn't have a mom in the dugout making sure they had all their stuff, in their perfect little bag. They were responsible. Hey, do this. But like I said, it helped having a guy that had played in professional baseball.
Sure.
They're at 9, already understanding when they have a glove and they're not on the field. They have their glove and hat in their glove waiting, and they knew to grab for their partner, whoever's out there with them in their position. So it's just little things we taught them at 9 and 10 that your job's. We don't just sit in here and, as I say, drink the Kool-Aid and eat the popsicles. We got work to do.
Yeah.
And so parents did a pretty good job staying away.
Yeah. So when you're dealing with the helicopter parents, you're setting expectations before the season, before the first practice. Okay.
Oh, yeah. They have it all written down, handed to them. Here's what we're expecting. Do we expect you to abide by this all the times? No.
Yeah.
We know there's going to be this situation or this situation.
Injuries.
Yes.
Yeah.
They think their kid's more injured than we tell them to rub dirt on it. Like I said, old school, right? But
Nothing wrong with that.
we get all that, and we understand the nurturing of parents, and maybe their kid's not used to this, especially younger.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have any problems when they got to 11, 12, 13, 14, all the way up through 18.
Yeah.
We didn't have that kind of problem.
Yeah, they were
Matter of fact, they just
disciplined.
dropped them off where the kids drove.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so it wasn't to that. But our parents that I coached did a great job of understanding, and as I tell them, leave us alone.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw the results of it, because some of us still think of. And then there's some we just like, you know what? I don't know if I'm the guy for your kid.
Yeah.
Because even though they're good, I just didn't want. I could feel things, and that's where coming an umpire, and you can feel situations coming up, and that was one of them.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What would you say your retention was from the first year to the last year? Because you had the same team throughout the entirety. I mean, how many players did you have in the beginning to the end?
The ones that played for me from 9 that played all the way through 18, I had 7.
That stayed with you the whole time. That's pretty good.
That's almost.
You just
full
don't
team.
hear of it. You don't hear of that very often. But
Yeah.
I was very, very fortunate. From Jake Northern from Quita, great kid, great family. Knew his older brothers.
I know Jake.
Yeah, so I had the little brother played for me, to Cade Cavanis, who played for Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Braden Daniel played at Kentucky, played for OU.
Yeah.
Alex Pointer played up in Kansas. Hunter Spates from Shreveport played down at Louisiana.
So 7 of the 9, or even
we had
more,
11.
7 of 11 stayed with you for the entirety of that
For
process.
most of the time, they would leave maybe when they were 11 or 12, but they always came back.
I would say even from a parenting perspective, that's a trust
Oh,
built
yeah.
in that process. Like, they trust what you're doing for them as a development on the field, but that doesn't come without developing them off the field, because that's a part of it too.
Sure.
Are you available? Are you responsive? Do you provide the right type of coaching, just not the skills and technical aspects, but are you providing the life skills in coaching?
Yeah, we tried to give them all that. I mean, we pounded in their head way before they even got to high school. If you're not doing your part in school, you'll never get to showcase your talent in high school.
Yeah.
Ever. So why would you go through half effort in the classroom when we don't let you do half effort on the field?
Sure.
That's great.
That's a great point. Yeah. What about you, Cody? Have you experienced, seen, or been a helicopter parent?
Never, no. And even, my coaching experience is limited to a very young age, and it was soccer.
Yeah.
But I actually had a great group of parents, and Andy Little was an assistant coach with me, a co-coach with me. He did a great job of keeping up morale with the kids. He was really great at talking to them, getting on their level, coming up with fun activities during practice for that age group to keep them motivated to coming back and wanting to experience and learn more about the sport. But as far as helicopter parents, they really just brought their kids, shuffled them out to the practice field or the game field, got in their chairs and just enjoyed and watched.
That's great. Because that's the way to do it. I mean, it really is, because you're entrusting this individual, whether it's recreational, volunteer, or all the way up to the majors, really and truly, into college you don't have a choice, but high school as well. If you're playing on any of the club balls, tournament ball, anything like that, the expectation is I'm entrusting my son, my daughter to you to develop them. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not involved, right? But I'm not helicoptering. I'm not impeding your process. I'm not an impediment to any type of skills growth, life, or on the field. And a lot of parents don't understand that.
No.
They know what's best all the time, whether they played that sport or they didn't play the sport, which a lot of times the most vocal never even picked up a bat or kicked a soccer ball.
That's the dangerous part of that.
That's the dangerous part.
Whole area.
Yeah.
But I could tell what parents went home and worked with their child on that craft too. Yeah. They came back, better skills, sharpened skills, the ability to learn and progress.
Wow.
So,
that's interesting you say that. And Richard, I'm sure you can attest to this as well. Seeing the kids that are growing mostly grow at home. So as a parent, if you're trying to, be a distraction or add, value adds or whatever you believe are value adds, opinions into the practice or the game, you're missing the mark. Where you should start adding additional influence and additional advice is, like Cody said, at home.
It's the main, especially in young youth sports. That's the best product for the child.
Yeah,
is watching practices. If you're not familiar with the sport, pick up on things you could do at home, because I guarantee you these coaches are going over homework skills with these youth kids, giving them things to do at home. And if you're not implementing that as a parent, if you're not going to the practices and watching this, you can't expect that 6 or 7 year old child to be like, okay, I'm supposed to do this. They may.
Yeah.
Some of them may just forget it and go play video games and not even worry about it. And if you're not there to watch and to understand what needs to be done at home and implement it, then it's done.
It's very true. Did you ever have homework that you would assign to the parents and the kids?
Certain levels, you want them to be able to do something before they go to the next age.
Right.
Like we want to be able to do this, little things, how to field a ground ball. By the time we're done, as Mike Daniel, who was one of my guys that was put in the Hall of Fame at Oklahoma State and Connors, that helped me develop all my kids all the way through. He was a lot bigger reason than me. I was just the sponge that would keep the parents from him.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, so he could do what he was good at.
Sure.
I mean, and so when you're doing all that, he would have little things to do in the batter's box. So at your home, you don't have a cage, right? Okay, well, use these balls, wiffle balls, use this, have your dad do this. So he would give them little bitty things when we were young. But then they started getting older. And one thing that, if you're a coach or you're a parent, do not underestimate what these kids can absorb. Don't underestimate them.
They're smart.
Oh, I don't know if they can do that. Don't ever do that.
Yeah.
Don't ever shortcase them, because that's what we noticed when we were coached. Hey, are we sure we're ready to roll a pair? I mean, you think they know how to touch second, throw it first, get away from the kid sliding, how to receive the ball?
Yeah.
We were learning that at 9, 10 years old. But that's the thing that parents don't, when you're doing something at home, don't underestimate them.
Right. Because a lot of times it's just repetition.
That's it.
They're not
Muscle
familiar.
memory.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we talk about a lot on our team. And we don't have major level kids. We have some kids that could possibly be, but collectively you have to coach on a spectrum, right? Everybody's being coached differently, but at the same time the expectation is to get them all to a certain point, right? And set goals. So let's kind of shift from that. That's great points, and I love having you here to explain that side of it as well. Let's talk about, put your umpire hat on for us.
Sure.
And What do you see as an umpire at the many levels that you've been from parents that needs to stop?
Not every play is the last play ever. They live on every play, every out, every batter. Everything is if it's the last, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then if they don't like something, I'm not going to say it's always umpiring. They don't like their coach, what they did, or something, and stuff gets verbalized, or another team. I mean, more stuff happens in the stands or with the coaches. These kids have no idea.
The disrespect of some parents at the ball game and verbalizing that to an umpire, to a coach, to a player is unreal. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen videos, TikToks.
Go YouTube.
Yeah. Of parents just, out loud, just calling someone an idiot or calling them names or calling them stupid. These kids are watching.
Right.
Is that how you want them to go out into the world on their own and, reflect that same attitude?
Right.
If something doesn't go their way or if they don't view something as, acceptable to them.
Yeah.
Just to start calling people names, and I don't know. It's just
The older they get,
the
older they get, they see how you act as a parent, and they seem to think that that's okay.
Yeah.
And so I run across it from that. Then you run across all of a sudden kids now that are 9th, 10th graders turn around and question stuff, and then you're like, "Who are you?
Yeah.
What are you?" Don't turn back here and look at me.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, they see all that and they think it's okay. So then you starting to see it. I see it now, even at the high school level, where I reached out to plenty of my friends that coached. We've talked before we got on air about Sandlot. Those guys, I've umpired them guys. And those guys know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to pound, and they don't like seeing what they're seeing in sports all across, not just here, but all across the United States.
In a way, I think instant replay and calls that have been overturned based on arguments have maybe enabled a little bit of our society to think, he called an outside pitch a strike, I'm going to draw a line where that pitch actually was, which in reality is very disrespectful. And you think you're going to get an overturned call just because he called you out on that or called a strike on that? Not going to happen. I had a situation where the umpire wasn't doing a great job, and he was probably getting $20 a game, so he's just out there making some extra money. He's grinding. And he was calling everybody out, high pitches, outside pitches, low pitches, one in the dirt. And so I was trying to teach the kids, just move on to the next pitch, on to the next play, right? But the parents were coming at me saying, why are you not jumping down his throat? Why are you not arguing this situation? And I had to stop at one point, and I made sure they were all looking at me, and I said, what do you expect to be done? And, they're expecting him to, okay, you can take another strike. Or, okay, he's actually not out. The call's been made. It's moved on. Yeah. The game is moving on. So it's a better opportunity to treat the kids and teach the kids that we respect the calls of the officials. Now we move on and we control the controllables, kind of thing.
Right. So as a parent or parent coach role in that situation, the kid's probably young, like you said.
Yeah.
Umpires don't start off experts. You got to go have these experiences game after game after game to get better at your craft. Mm-hmm. So, teach the kids the right way, just like you did. You can still go to the umpire between innings, say, "Hey, man, I think some of these calls could go a little bit differently." You can go to bat for the children at that point in a respectful manner.
Yeah.
But for the parents to come to you and be like, "Why aren't you yelling at him? Why aren't you, going to bat for our kids in the moment?" That's not the right place.
Not the right place. And that's the thing. Here at the Applicable Dad community, we've talked about it over and over and over again. We want to be relevant. We want to be appropriate. Well, as parents, you should be appropriate in the way you handle coaches. You should be appropriate in the way you handle umpires. Respect your authority. We've been raised on we're 80s babies, and we're in an era where it's respect your elders and the people in authority over your life. And so in a game, why would you not apply that same type of focus and be that example and lead by example with your kids?
Always watching and absorbing, to Richard's point.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, because they pick up on it, and sometimes it's a sad reverberation of really negative thought process.
Mm-hmm.
So what else from your perspective on the umpiring side of it would you say, stop complaining and pretending like everything is the end of the game because you got a call that went against your team? What other experiences have you had?
Well, I mean, like we talked about before, the younger the age group, the younger the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them bring that intensity in as if they were still playing. So you got to help them help themselves without helping them.
Okay.
Because you don't go tell them, because then you put them on the defense, and you just kind of work it in. I'm one of a few guys that can work it in with a little bit of humor. Remind them I umpired them and their kids already better than them now at 7 than they were at 17. Maybe lighten up a little bit. I don't know. I mean, stuff like that. But you see it. It's just the way the world has changed. That if you're getting these kids, and we talked before about how do you get involved with the kid when they're young,
mm-hmm.
just watch ball games with them, right?
Yeah.
Take them to the baseball game, right? Take them to a soccer game. Take them to a basketball game. And when you go do all that kind of stuff, then you see yelling at the officials, yelling at an umpire, someone getting thrown out. And then it goes all the way back to when they're coached. So it's how society has turned everything into umpires are wrong and bad.
Yeah.
We're always right. And I understand that part. I know what I signed up for.
Yeah.
The best thing that'll be able to happen to us is what I told people all the time is I wish they would bring in the computer automated strike zone. You know how you see it on the TV?
Mm-hmm.
Let it beep in my ear. I'll call the ball and strike that way. They would really come unglued, because then what do they argue? If you took that little part out of a game, what do you do?
Yeah.
So how would that prolong the game as far as getting the information immediately to the umpire?
Well, they have a computer system they've done, and I think it's AA up in northeastern United States.
Mm-hmm.
And they've started where it goes off in their ear if it's a strike. And then they're yelling strike. Because you still got to have a home plate umpire to still signal stuff. Still outs and safes, right?
Yeah.
Ball goes off his feet. Ball hits him. You still have to have them there.
Yeah.
But now what you take is what are 90% of the ejections on? Balls and strikes.
Yeah.
Take that out of the way. I promise you talk about changing a game.
Yeah.
I'd let them call balls and strikes. I don't care. I'd let the computer tell me, okay, because that would help me out, right?
Sure.
And then if it's perfect, but they would, how many times have you watched a Major League Baseball game and seen, oh, that was a strike, he called it a ball.
Mm-hmm.
Or that was a ball and he called it a strike. Those batters would come unglued if they saw some of the strikes that are not called, that they think are balls, and or they think are balls, and it's called a ball, but in relation it's a strike. So you take a lot of it out and you would condense arguing.
Yeah. We get a lot of parents chirping from behind the
all the time.
And it's based on something they don't even have a very good viewpoint of. How do you know if that was a ball or a strike? And you're going to be vocal?
They're over here at a 45-degree angle.
Yeah. And there's been some where I see it come off the mound. I'm off to the side by the dugout. I see it come off. I see like the trajectory of it. But that doesn't always mean that it's not inside outside.
Yeah.
I can see if it came within his strike zone, from a vertical perspective, but not inside outside. And some parents will throw fits about that. That's where we need to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not a reprimand. This show is not intended to be that, but we have to understand that we trust the individuals that are using your free time, some of which is on a volunteer basis, some of which obviously you're getting some compensation for, but your experience. I guarantee the majority of parents behind the dugout, behind the fence, have had zero experience with, one, playing the game, or two, actually officiating the game, because two are wildly opposite. The two are.
Mm-hmm.
So, That's really great experience, and I'm glad that we brought you on for this, Richard. So you're already providing a lot of value props for us, man. So thank you.
Could you pass that on to my wife?
I will pass that on. I will pass that on. So one thing that I do want to add, and I brought up even from my own personal experience, but my perspective as well, is my approach to my own kids is when I'm helping to develop them as athletes, and feel free to chime in on this when you guys want, but is to make sure that they're accountable, make sure that they're full of integrity, whatever they're dealing with, whatever game, they have integrity. Personal, it starts there, and then it penetrates and permeates throughout. Loyalty, are you loyal to the game that you've committed to?
Mm-hmm.
Trust, can we trust you to be responsible for your own equipment, for your own time, for your own efforts, but also to your team? Are you committing to this? Can we trust that you're going to see it through? But at the same time, are you going to showcase leadership? And the leadership starts within the home, and a lot of times it's based on what you have taught them, and now you've committed to me, I want to go play this sport. So how do we hold them accountable to make sure that they're doing that same leadership and exuding that same leadership outside of the walls of this home?
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say your focus is for kids? You can jump on those or add your own.
Are we just going over a parent's points and roles as far as building their...
Yeah, building the athlete. What are you as a parent of athletes, what is your focus for those kids, or what advice would you give?
Just to, like you said, learning how to be motivated as a kid to learn the game
Mm-hmm.
in every aspect. Like you said, leadership, accountability, and being intentional. They need to be surrounded with whatever they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're playing baseball, like Richard said, take them to the games,
Mm-hmm.
let them see the professionals carry themselves. And that's key for these professionals too, to be a persona of somebody that somebody young wants to be.
Yeah.
As they see them, be intentional, go to games, work with them at home with the sport. Don't just go to practices and come home and do your own thing.
Yeah.
It has to be implemented at all times. If they enjoy it, for sure, it needs to be a part of their life,
Yeah.
home and away.
That's good. Great points. What about you, Richard? What would you advise?
Two things a guy taught me years ago, and he came up with it. We even put it on T-shirts. Two things that we taught our baseball kids, football kids, basketball kids was to control. There's only two things that athlete could control.
Mm-hmm.
Only two. And that's what was amazing when he shrinked it down, all that stuff, into two things. Okay? So attitude.
Mm-hmm.
What's your attitude on the field? What's your attitude at home? What's your attitude at practice? What's your attitude with the other players? What's your attitude against the team you're going against?
Mm-hmm.
What's your attitude like?
Yeah.
Okay? And how's your effort? You don't have to be a superstar to give super effort.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be perfect example, my son who played on the major team, probably AA, AAA, but because of his effort and Mike Daniel, like I said before, making these kids play above what they were,
Mm-hmm.
they were able to do it. So we always said, remember, there's two things. You can't control Johnny throwing the pass to you, but you can control how you react to it and if you catch it. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't control what somebody else is doing, so control you. And that goes on to coaches too. And that's what I do as an umpire. I try to control my attitude because I got to be the cooler one, right?
Yeah.
That's what you got to be. You're the coach. You got to be the cooler one. Your parent, you got to be the cool head. You don't want to be. There's plenty of times you don't want to be,
Yeah.
but you have to be for that child, right? And then effort is everything. Effort goes to everything you're talking about. Bring your own stuff. Make sure you're there for practice. Even if you're hurt, you're still showing up.
Yeah.
You're not coming up with excuses not to be there. You're finding a reason to be there.
Oof.
And so when you're doing all that kind of stuff, when you're naming attitude and effort and you do it like that and you sink it all down to two words,
Mm-hmm.
what can you do?
Yeah.
What's your attitude like? How's your effort?
Yeah.
I mean, so that right there summed it all up for us. And that's where all that stuff you were talking about, those 5 to 7 leadership
Yeah.
can go in those two words because attitude's leadership, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Effort,
Yeah.
putting toward leadership, right? I mean, so.
Well, you're leading by example.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that was the two things that we stuck by. We even put them on shirts.
That's amazing.
And, there's two things you can control. We bring it every day. Control your attitude, control your effort.
It's a great way to articulate that.
100% attitude and effort. And that's the sad thing too, is you've seen a lot of kids, and you've probably seen them. I know I've seen them where it's their athleticism is through the roof. They have nothing but potential, but their attitude's horrible.
Oh my God.
And their effort is minimal because they're resting on the laurels of what God has blessed them with, as opposed to trying to get better. And they're like, why do I need to practice? I'm hitting 300 plus.
Right.
Why would I need to get better? So
And that comes with the parents at home.
yeah.
Harness that and send it in the right direction.
Yeah. I mean, how bad would you feel if your kid was just extremely athletic, but you didn't help to harness that effort and attitude and grow on that, and they never reached their potential?
It's pretty sad.
Dude, I would
honestly.
be crushed as a dad.
Well, a buddy of mine would say, all the time when he's talking about you don't want to go hit extra today, or you don't want to go to the soccer field and work on your dribbling, or you don't want to go shoot baskets, or you don't want to go throw and catch passes, whatever. Okay, well, you better hope all your competition took the day off. Because if they didn't take the day off, you're a day behind. I don't care where you're at. But you better hope they took off. You want me to make phone calls for you to make sure they're not doing it too, son?
Yeah.
And then they would, okay, grab my bat, whatever.
Yeah.
That's
fantastic. The parent's role is crucial in what we're doing to raise this generation's athlete. And the responsibility on us is of the utmost importance. And so what our challenge to you as parents, as people within this applicable dad community, is to be more intentional in that role, help develop.
And that we touched on it briefly, but the last point of the parent role, living vicariously through your child.
Yeah.
Try to keep that in mind when you're pushing boundaries, who are you doing it for? What in the moment of you're teaching your child or playing with your child or helping them learn new things in their sport, is it the right way?
Right.
Who am I doing this for? Is it for him or is it for me?
Right.
And don't also forget that as a parent, which I saw as a coach, especially for some kids, depending on, like I said, where they're at mentally, is dropping them off, having the coach be the babysitter is not the answer. They want you involved. How many times you see at practice, I could walk at football practice and walk a sideline and just look at people while the kid's practicing?
Yeah.
You think they're watching? No. Phone, man. Or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So my point is, if you have 7 kids, I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I get all that. You can only be certain places. But
Right.
every effort that you can, be there. Don't just drop them off where that's what you're known for, is like you talk about the helicopter parent.
Yeah.
We also nickname some as, well, we're the babysitters.
Yeah.
And so, but we as coaches take that responsibility on, because sometimes on the male figure side, we might unfortunately be the only male
100%
that you get.
Right.
And that's no one's fault. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just what life has dealt people.
Yeah.
So I don't judge them for that.
Yeah.
I just try to help out. So
That's amazing. That's great. So that's the parent's role that we're talking about. And we've been bouncing back and forth, like we talked about, of the coach's role as well, just based on our own personal experiences. So we want to kind of shift over to the coach's role. So as a coach, primarily, it's a time, it's a volunteer. There are coaches nowadays within clubs that are getting paid for their time. Travel ball is a big deal around here. Pay this coach for all of this time to get this X amount of exposure to get them to the next level. And so we want to shift gears over to the coach's side of it. And I found some very, very interesting statistics. And Cody's usually the stat man, but he probably wouldn't understand
Go, Jon.
the hieroglyphics on what's
Go,
going
Jon.
on here. So we want to touch on this. And one of the biggest key points that I took away from, and this is based on NCAA.org, is less than 3.3% of kids are recruited for D1 in Oklahoma.
it's a big number.
3.3%. All right. So let's break that down even further. So if you want your kid and you think that, I'm going to pay all this extra money to get my kids further exposure, they're going to get into Division I or even in the NCAA altogether. Baseball, 483,000 as of 2020 kids that played baseball in the area. and actually, this is all across the U.S. Sorry, only 36,000 of them went to that next level. NAIA, Division I, Division II, JUCO. All right. Basketball, 540,000. Of that 540,000, only 19,000 went to the next level. Football, 1 million. Of those 1 million, 73,000 went to the next level. Soccer, 60,000. Only 25,000 of those went to the next level. Wrestling, 248,000. Only 7,000 of those went to the next level.
Scholarship? Or just to the next level, period?
Just to play in the sports. Well, most of them, I mean, you're going to get a partial scholarship if you're representing the school or a walk-on or anything like that. So
Preferred walk-on.
Yeah.
Preferred walk-on, yeah.
So let's go even deeper into this. Of that percentage, and I only went down to the main three, baseball, basketball, football, that went professional outside of NCAA, 8,000 were eligible in 2020 for baseball. Only 791 of the 8,000 went to the major leagues. Farm clubs, AA, AAA, big dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Only 791. Basketball, 4,100 were eligible. Only 52 of those went to the NBA. And then football, which is a big sport, obviously you know that, 16,300 were eligible. Only 254 actually went to the NFL. And the reason I bring up those stats is you could have all the experience in the world. You could have paid all the high-end coaches, all the best-named coaches, and that's a small percentage of people that actually make it. So the focus as coaches in rolling into this open dialogue and conversation should not be only how are we developing them on the field,
mm-hmm.
but how are we developing them as men and women that will be contributing members to our society. 3.3% in Oklahoma, not a big percentage, but that leaves 96.7% that we can control and we can do better on the positive.
That need to find a different career path.
Exactly right. Whether that's college or degrees, advanced degrees. How are you going to be a good member of society?
Trade.
And a lot of kids, I've seen it over and over again. They put all their eggs in that sports basket. And they didn't spend any time on academics. They got through with just the bare minimum, and then they're now working, for
ABC Supply. I'm sorry, I am so sorry. Sorry, Cody.
All state over here. So that's kind of what we want to talk about on topic 2 is the coach's role, and I'm going to open it up. So, Cody, what would you say the key roles of a coach are in today's world?
So in my experience, we're volunteering our time in youth.
Mm-hmm.
As dads. It's typically a dad or mom that's going to volunteer to coach a team. A lot of times out of necessity because nobody else will. So they're kind of forced into this role. And keep in mind, it's mainly volunteering. So when we talked about the parents who are helicopter parents or who want to put in their opinions on how to coach or what should be done in practice or what should be done in a game or where my son should be playing on the field, you should have signed up.
Ooh.
You should have signed up to coach. If that's going to be you should have stepped up. So keep in mind, volunteering they're volunteering their time, not only at the field, at practice,
mm-hmm.
but I recall at home going over, game plans, when to sub kids in, when to sub kids out, what to do at practice, coming up with skill workouts to implement in practice and
mm-hmm.
to help, gain their skills. So it's a lot of time just outside of the normal practice times or the game times on the weekends.
Yeah.
So, as a coach, you want to give everyone equal opportunity, all the kids, regardless of skill level, because they're at a point, especially in the youth stages, which is where I was, to develop into a better athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Give them the tools to reach those goals that they're trying to get to. And, some of those kids don't have this parent at home that's going to keep going over these skills.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all the time they get is with you as the coach. So, that's a lot of responsibility for a dad or a mom to put into somebody the drive and the motivation to especially 6-7 years old,
Mm-hmm.
To work on these things at home. So
Yeah.
just finding ways to connect, to be on that child's level, no matter what age they are, because they're going to develop. They're going to be, as they grow older, 11, 12 years old, like you said. You have to push them. You have to know when to push them, and sometimes that boundary is a gray area.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot for a coach, outside of the practices, outside of the game. So, just to be have everything down that you need and an outline
Yeah.
to implement throughout the year.
Mm-hmm. That's good. What about you, Richard?
Don't feel afraid to set your ego aside.
Mm-hmm.
Ask for help. Know what your strengths are, and maybe able to use that. But what your weaknesses are, don't be afraid to find somebody else that's a lot better at you, a lot better at that skill. Like, for instance, we had a pitching coach we hired. We were 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Who's the pitching coach now for Jinx High School. But we knew I needed someone that could get them to understand it, and then I learned the few vocabulary words that need to go with it
Mm-hmm.
to re-trigger what he had been teaching them all week.
Yeah.
So don't feel like you have to be the know-it-all. I ask for help all the time because you're only as good as the people around you. You're only as strong as your weakest link. So
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure everything was covered, because if you're truly in it for the kids, then you're trying to give them every opportunity in every aspect. Whether it be in the classroom, you go get them a tutor.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Right.
if you want to be a better soccer player, you hire a private soccer coach that you
Yeah.
see all the time, or whatever. You go get a trainer, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're trying to get them to there, you try to give them the opportunity, every opportunity, but don't forget about the guy that maybe doesn't have that opportunity or that kind of money, or that. Don't forget about him. So find ways to get that person along too, because you know how they do what in education, nobody left unturned or nobody left behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same way when you're coaching too.
Mm-hmm.
There might be, as you talked about it, even at AA, AAA major, there's still one thing in common. They keep score.
Mm.
So it's still competitive.
Yeah.
So you don't want to take the aggressiveness away from them, but have someone that can touch maybe even that 9th kid, that 10th kid, 11th kid, find a way to make that kid also just as important.
Yeah.
Because as you guys were talking about, when you go to a team, you're in sales. If your inside salesman doesn't do his job very well, are you very good as an outside salesman? No. So you get them. So that's where it goes from sports to, as you were saying, the other 96.7.
Yeah.
That's where team sports. I'm not going to just harp on team sports, but
Yeah.
that's really all I know a little bit of.
Sure.
But it also helps them develop into other areas depending on other people. That was a great thing about Jimmy Johnson. He knew he had to have great assistants to be a good head coach.
Yeah.
So
That's a great point. Asking for help. Some parents don't even think, who do I have around me?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be someone It could be another parent on the team that just kind of sits over on the sideline and lets you do his thing. Be like, hey man, what do you know?
Right.
What can you? I need help. I need help setting up cones. I need help shuffling the kids over here to this area during certain drills. I need help bringing orange slices to the game.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Ask for help.
Yeah, that's great. I always made it a point with the dads, because you'll always have dads that are more on the, front lines, more involved.
Standing there with their arms crossed.
Yeah.
Watching the whole time.
You can tell. You can pick them all out. So I usually ask, hey, I'm going to need some help. It takes a village, right? You've heard that over and over again, but it really does in a lot of areas of life, and primarily I would say in sports as well. So I always see those guys. You can call them out. You can point them out. And I say, I'm going to need some help. And then I'll ask them very directly, do you have any experience with this? Did you ever play? If so, what did you play? Were you any good? What type of hitter were you? What type of pitcher were you? Get an understanding of what their skill set is, because my skill set only goes a certain level. And then if I can bridge a gap of growth and development for any particular kid with their skill set, you're only better off for it. But you do see a lot of coaches, recreational and competitive even, that are it's my way or the highway. And you'll do everything I tell you to do or get out. And that's the struggle, is not everybody had upper level experience. And even if they did, that doesn't mean they're the best coach. They might be able to play the game, but that does not mean that they can translate that into the minds of a child. And so that's what I always try to make it a point of, like you said, ask for help, showcasing leadership, but it's how do I, or the skill set, bridging that skill set gap and making sure that it is a collective effort for the best experience for these kids and development. So that would be my only touch on this. I do want to touch on the college side of it. Obviously, the goal is to try to get your kid a scholarship. No parent willingly wants to pay for college without some type of support, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, would you say that's a pretty big goal for most parents?
I think so. As long as the drive in the athlete, the child, is there.
Yeah.
Athletic ability, like you said, only goes so far.
Yeah.
Motivation and drive has to be there to want to be at that level, to have the work ethic, not only in the sport, but in the classroom, to achieve that goal. And I mean, that's where we're at with our son Jace. He's going to be a freshman this year, and we've already started the process with, it's actually NCSA, which is Next College Student Athlete. Now they are for-profit organization, but what they're going to do is set up a profile for Jace, and a list of what he's done, he's accomplished, what sports he's in, what positions, set up a whole profile for him. And this is going to be available to all college coaches to review, to go over as they're looking for potential college athletes down the road, as a freshman now. So he has 4 years.
Wow.
And we're going to start this process. It's about we're going to create highlight reels for him, which a lot of people know to do this already, especially those high profile athletes at this stage, freshman, sophomore, junior. If you haven't started it as a freshman, you're behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of people start even younger now, 8th, 7th, 6th grade.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So Richard agrees with that point. What did you do to get your 6 and 7 kids to the next level?
Introduced them to Mike Daniel, who was my guy, and he had a lot of connections. But we also put a profile, as you were talking about. We did a profile sheet we handed to all the coaches that would be up in the stand. We had 2 parents that would notice coaches, and we knew a bunch. Over time, Mike knew a bunch of them, and we gave them their ACT scores. They had just their own sheet, what they do, what they like to do, where they go to school, when they're going to graduate.
Yeah.
We had a lot of them take the NCAA test to make sure that they were eligible, right?
Yeah.
So you had to, have you done this? I forgot if it's a certificate or whatever, that to make sure they were eligible. Did you already do that? One of them was not the player house, but something like that. Where along, hey, did you do all this? Mm-hmm. And we had all the information for them if they did ACT or SAT scores, GPA, classes, just stuff along the line, and had all that stuff to give the coaches so they could have a little background already getting started on that kid. And we started handing that stuff out when we started playing college showcases at 15, 16, 17, 18. So at 15, 16, we really instituted it.
Wow. So 15, 16, it was instituted as a freshman going through the high school process, already putting stuff together for him. So we did some research on what colleges recruiters really look for, and you guys have kind of touched on a lot of that already, but academics, you mentioned the ACT, SATs. Are you intentional with your academics? Are you just breezing through, or are you actually to get to the football field, the baseball field, or the field of any other kind, or are you really intentionally trying to grow in your own academia? So academics was one.
And real quick, just on the academics real fast.
Yeah.
The reason why that's important to them, besides that you're able to go, is because scholarships. How would you like to be able to go play at OU knowing and they would like to have you, but they don't have to spend as much money on an athletic scholarship because your academics, you're in the upper 5% of your class, 4.1 grade point average, 31 on your ACT, and you're going to qualify for this other money that helps their program, but also helps you.
Yeah.
So that's where the academics even comes in more, on the money part of it.
That's a great point.
That's going to make you much more eye-popping to them.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Well, and it goes into eligibility,
yes,
too.
Sir.
So are you going to be eligible enough? Are you going to do the work that's necessary in the classroom so you can be eligible on the field? So academics, and I appreciate that value add on there, and feel free to chime in, either one of you. Athletics, obviously, are you athletic enough? What is your athleticism? You have to understand the game, like Cody had brought up. You have to have the athletic ability to be able to play that game and to stand out above your peers. So colleges are looking for academics, athletics, attitude, which we should also throw effort in based on Richard's point, attitude, and character. What type of person are you?
If you think these recruiters aren't going to be calling coaches.
Oh, they do.
Schools.
Yeah.
To test and see how you were with your attitude and your approach to your game, to school.
Cody, you mentioned earlier when we were off the air changing the camera around, is social media is the biggest thing out there.
Yeah.
And if you act up on social media, I've seen guys, and you can look at the bottom of ESPN when you're going down there, and every now and then they'll come across where, you'll see a guy lost his scholarship or not with the team no more because of something he did on social media, or a coach gets kicked off because of a picture comes across Instagram of him drinking or whatever.
Yeah.
Just put, if you kids are so, I'm supposed to use good words,
silly,
not real smart sometimes.
We talk to Jace about that all the time, man. I say, man, know where you're at on the social media. Know what you're posting, how you're posting it. Are you respectful? And as he grows older and is introduced to different things, parties, drinking, drugs, even at a young age, the kids these days are getting involved. I mean, I'm sure we were too at our point in time.
But we didn't put it on social media,
but we
guys.
Didn't have that. It's everywhere.
Because I would probably be in
somebody can take a picture of you so quick in any situation, post it, and it's there forever.
Yeah.
Kids, watch out.
Yeah.
Be responsible with yourself and how you carry yourself in public.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that goes into kids think that, I'll just go back and delete it. Well, the age of screenshots, the internet is forever.
Somebody's got
it. Screenshot anything, and somebody has it. Even the old Snapchat, which I'm not a part of that, but I've seen how it works. And you think that it's just going to go away, and whoever you're sending it to is not going to screenshot it with another phone and let you know that it was screenshotted. So absolutely great point on that. So colleges are looking for academics, athletics, attitude. I'm adding effort and character to really see if you're capable of being within that 3.3% and going to that next level. So this has been a really great conversation. I love that we were able to bring our first guest on, Richard. We really appreciate the value adds and your insight and experience. So we didn't talk about the sponsorship, but I'm going to talk about it right now. Our sponsor for this episode is Encore Communications in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They are a premier fiber-based telecommunications provider. They do phone and internet as well as hosted managed systems for the Tulsa metro area. If you want to check out what you're doing compared to Cox, AT&T, or Windstream or Logix, give them a shout. There's an opportunity to reduce some costs, gain some better services, as well as get out from under the contract obligations. They are a no contract setup, so give them a shout and see what you could do. I'll throw the number up on the screen as far as the website. But thank you so much, Encore Communications, for the sponsorship on a great, great topic and conversation.
I hear they have an absolutely wonderful sales staff. Top notch.
They definitely do. So we'll throw that on there. Thanks again for listening to us. Thanks, Richard Stickney, for joining us here. We really appreciate it. We might have you back on because there's a lot of information that we still want to talk about, but we're trying to keep this within an hour's time frame. But we will have you back at some point. It's been great having you on. Yeah, thank you. Cody, any parting shots?
Actually, I would like Richard to reiterate his point the two attributes that kids need: attitude and effort.
That's it. Two things kids can control, man, in life, no matter where they're at, working world.
Yeah.
Us today,
Yeah.
is our attitude and effort. It goes to sports, to the church, to your whatever your religion is at church, to the workplace, to at home with your kids. Is we all as adults, all the way down to however old you're getting them, 4 or 5 years old, is two things a person can control. Everything else is really out of your reach.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. Yeah.
Attitude and effort. I love it. Well, thanks again for listening to Applicable Dad, Parenting and Beyond, listening to the coaching and parenting athletes topic. If you haven't followed us on Facebook, jump over to Facebook page, like and subscribe on that one, as well as YouTube. We've got the YouTube. We're a little bit behind on YouTube. We got YouTube. We got TikTok. If you're interested in just seeing where you can go to see it all, applicabledad.com. And we're really happy to just kind of be a part of this community and talk about the things that maybe we needed some help with growing up.
Let us know what you think. Feedback. Talk to us.
Feedback. Talk to us. We do have one shirt to give out. We had a like and a share, and it was actually this gentleman's wife, and it is Clint Brown.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were pointing at him. I was like, Star?
No. Clint Brown, we got a shirt coming to you. Audra, we appreciate the like and the share and supporting our community. We could not be happier to have you as a part of it. So,
thank you.
Clint, we'll get you a message over to Audra, and we'll get your shirt size, and we'll get you a shirt. But thank you so much.
It's medium.
It's medium, most likely. So we're up in the air on the next episode, but we will get that to you probably midweek and kind of do a little teaser on what we're going to talk about next week. Sound
Awesome.
good?
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much.